Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. Thank you so much for coming in to watch this video. I greatly appreciate it. And here's what we have on the topic for today. So we have great news from Hut 8 and also from Cipher. Obviously, the markets today were actually pretty good. Bitcoin actually ended up on the day plus side of things. And then we'll also take a look at the Bitcoin transaction fees and the impact that they're having on the Bitcoin miners and as far as what kind of windfall they could have from it going forward, at least this month. So and it really is interesting to take a look at how much some of the miners are getting extra for this. Okay. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in the following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's get into it here. So let's take a look at the miners here really quick, along with Bitcoin, see what's going on there. And I didn't want that. I wanted this one. But here's what we got. So Bitcoin right now is at 42,984. It is up a little bit here on the new day. So we just transitioned over about maybe what? Probably about 15 minutes ago, transitioned over to the new day. But we did finish out Monday basically up 3.14%, even though we were down to about, well, the low on it today was 40,508. Then we bounced back up. So that was kind of nice to see. So we were up 3.14% on the day. We closed at 42,650, which is nice to see. And we still make them down a little bit more. We're still in this kind of accumulation phase on this one. So we'll just keep an eye on it. Like I said in the previous video yesterday, we do have this gap here on the CME futures for Bitcoin. Those usually get filled. We'll see if this gets filled, and we're not too far away from it right now. We're about 3,000 from the bottom here as far as where the gap is. So that might get filled still here this year. We'll see. Okay. But looking at the miners here, Annie had a really good day today. It was up 10.56%. Argo was up, down today 8.7%. Bit Digital was just flat. No, not really flat. Up 1.87%. Bitdeer was down 1.39. Bitfarms was down 1.68. Cipher, based on the news that came out today, and we'll get into the news in a little bit here, but they provided they're buying some more miners. But there's some little interesting things in there that I think you guys will want to know about, okay? But it was up 20% today on the day, so it had a really good day as well. CleanSpark was up just barely 1.88% on the day. Cores was up huge today, 38.3% on that one. Really no news there, except for them getting close to getting out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Maybe that's the reason why the stock is pumping there. DigiHost was up 7%. DMG was up 10.35%. Greenwich was up barely 0.59%. Hive was up 4.89%. Hut 8 was up 15.1%. So it had a really good day today as well. And that could be based on the news that came out. We'll take a look at that as well. Iris Energy was down slightly, 0.17%. Marathon was up 8.69%. Mawson was up 5.08%. Riot up 4.93%. Soluna down 4.88%. Stronghold was up 15.8%, so they were up nice today. Wolf was up only 1.69%. So we may see, what we might be seeing right now is a little bit of rebalancing in the miners. We do have a lot of miners here. Some have gone up quite a bit here in the last 12 weeks or so. Some haven't, so we may be seeing a little bit of rebalancing there happening right now, but we'll just kind of keep an eye on it and see what happens there going forward. Okay. So let's get into our main story here, or stories that we do have here, which are going to be on Cipher. So actually, well, let's do Hut 8 first, then we'll get into Cipher because this one's going to be easier. So Hut 8 selected by Celsius debtors to build out Cedarville, Texas site. And here's what we have from them. So the company has signed an interim agreement to build out and install mining operations in connection with Celsius Network LLC bankruptcy proceedings at a site in Cedarville, Texas. Once complete, the site will house approximately 66,000 miners and be powered by more than 215 megawatt of energy. I would have to do a little bit more background into this. I don't know if they have anything else in Cedarville there, or if this is going to be just for them, because if it is, the 250 megawatts is kind of high for only 66,000 miners. Okay. So this was obviously good news for them. That's going to obviously take some time to build that out. And that probably won't happen until possibly, well, within the next 6 months or so, I'm guessing, if they start building it here shortly. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress going forward on this. But nonetheless, this is another kind of notch on the belt for the combination of Hut 8 and USBTC, getting more miners under management. And I think this is good for them. So as long as it's profitable business for them, I'm all for it. Okay, so this was good for Hut 8 here. Let's take a look at Cipher here. Cipher Mining purchases 7.1 exahash of new miners, an option to purchase an additional 8.7 exahash of latest generation miners from Bitmain. This is great news, but there are some little tidbits in the details here. And we'll take a look at them down here. So full purchase order and option would bring total hash rate in operations and under contract to 24.2 exahash If they execute to the full purchase, that would be bringing them down to 22.6 joules per terahash. So that would be good there. So here's the little tidbit that's kind of quirky a little bit. So Cipher today announced that it has entered into an agreement with Bitmain to purchase 37,396 units of the latest generation Antminer T21 miners, representing 7.1 exahash of self-mining capacity to be delivered in the first half of 2025. At first when I saw that, I thought this was a mistake. I'm like, why would you purchase now and then get them in the first half of next year? Or basically, well, we're almost in 2024 here, so basically a year out in 2025. When the halving event is happening here in like 4 months roughly, right? And then they go on to say here, Cipher has also purchased the option to acquire an additional 45,706 miners, representing 8.7 exahash in 2024. Like, okay, so did those two numbers get mixed up? I reached out to them on Twitter, and some of them, Anthony Power, actually replied that no, this is correct, that they are getting that. They basically don't have the facility up and running yet to host all of these machines yet. And if they get it done in time, they do have the option, obviously, to buy the 45,706 miners of 8.7 exahash to get installed, along with possibly getting, obviously, they're going to get the ones for 2025, but they do have the option there. So I thought this was kind of weird. I know that they are going to be building out here, and they stated down here, we can build out the first 135 megawatt at our newly acquired Black Pearl site. So they're going to be building this out. So depending on how long it takes them to build that out, whether it's going to be 6 months to a year, hopefully it's not going to be a year, but that will obviously determine whether or not they can get the 8.7 exahash additional, and then they'll obviously get the 7.1 exahash for next year. So if all goes well, the good thing is they might be able to get the 8.7 exahash this year, which would be great, which is what we would want to see. But if they can't build out in time for that, I don't know how the contract is going to work for them to. Do they not get those 8.7 then in 2024? Do they get them in 2025? That's an obviously honest question to ask. But like I said, this was just a little weird to me. So I think maybe the investors pulled a little bit too fast on this one. Because if you are going to be not getting the miners until 2025, you're basically going to be at that point halfway, probably in the bull run of Bitcoin at that point. Depending when you get those in 2025 also. You could be towards the very end of the bull run at that point as well. But the good thing is that they're getting these miners at $14 per terahash, which is still really attractive here. So they go on to say it here. Furthermore, by locking in our price for mining rigs at very attractive $14 per terahash, we are controlling our biggest potential capital expense and locking in favorable terms ahead of what we believe will be a bull market for Bitcoin, which is correct, which is a lot of people believing in that. As previous halving cycles have happened, Bitcoin goes into a bull run afterwards. But that's going to be getting into right at that point of, maybe towards the middle or the peak of Bitcoin bull run at that time. So kind of interesting there. So definitely good news, but a little bit muted, I think. Had they said that they're going to be obviously getting, maybe even getting 5 exahash or something like that within for the second half of 2024. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. But going out to 2025 and then with the option to buy more in 2024, if they can build out, I guess, that's kind of first time I've seen this kind of deal set up basically, okay? But here's what we do have for them. If we look at Cipher, they have right now 254 million shares outstanding. Stock prices is today at $3.14. Obviously had a nice run up here. Their market cap now is basically 800 million at that point. And we are using the latest price here. I want to make sure that we're using that 314 or $3.14 Cipher, 314 today. Yep, okay. So we are using the most recent price there. Market cap is at 800 million right now as it is. So that's good. They are currently at 6.2. They have enough to get to 7.2, I believe. Or 7.2 is what they have combined. If we look at the numbers down here, let's see. Yep, there are 7.2 owned. So they do have a joint venture, which includes Alvarez, Bear and Chief. Odessa is their basically self-mined hosting facility, but they do have a joint venture with Alvarez, Bear and Chief. And at that point, they are over there approximately 1.9 exahash roughly. And they own, I believe, less than 50% on that, whatever that percentage is here. I think I have it calculated here someplace. But basically at that point, they're going to get to 7.2, which is basically where they are right now, fully installed for it. And the reason I don't report on the joint venture unless it's actually 50% or above, because based on the accounting principles, it has to be reported as assets, not revenue. Okay, so that's the way that works. So they are at 7.2 right now, fully installed. And they're going to be getting to possibly 15.6 exahash once they installed the 7 point, where is it over here? I know I'm going back and forth here. Might be a little dizzying, but here we go. 7.1 exahash, which is what they're getting the T21 miners from Bitmain. Those are 190 terahash miners, and I have it here, delivery H1 of 2025 sometime potentially. Okay. Other than that, I think that's pretty good that they're growing. It's definitely a huge growth for them going forward. And I think the biggest thing is going to be for them to execute as fast as they can to get those machines in as fast as they can. Okay. And the reason for that is hash rate is going to be king, especially when we look at some of the numbers here that we have for the Bitcoin fees here. The more hash rate you have, the more you're actually going to be generating more revenue on those transaction fees as well. Okay, so that is it for Cipher. I think this is great news, just a little strange. I'm not going to lie, it's a little strange to me the way that they set it up, but it might work for them really well. Okay, so nonetheless, this is good news for Cipher here. Okay, so let's take a look at the Bitcoin transaction fees here. And I pulled in the data ever since the beginning of the month. So we're looking at beginning of December up to the 17th of December, which was yesterday. I don't have the latest data here for the 18th, so we're going with that. But you can see here on the chart that on, let me see here, December 1st, we were getting approximately 95 additional Bitcoins per day added to the transaction fees. So there's 144 blocks in that day, basically every 10 minutes. 900 Bitcoin are being rewarded to the miners, and then on top of that, you're getting the Bitcoin transaction fees as well added to it. Okay, so some blocks may have more, some blocks may have less, but the total was 95 Bitcoins for that day. We peaked here a little bit towards the 6th of December, where we got 293 Bitcoins per day. At that point, we came back down a little bit here to approximately 114, and then we recently just peaked here on the 16th at 564 Bitcoins added to the rewards basically for the day. So when we look at the data that I have on it, so I pulled it all in. I pulled in where the miners were, and I'll kind of go through the numbers here and explain to you guys what I'm looking at here, what I'm doing, so you guys are aware of it. Okay, BTC fees. So we'll go back to these charts here in a second here, but here's what we got. I pulled in the miners as far as what they produced in November for BTC mined. And in November, we had some Bitcoin transaction fees added to it as well. Not as much as we're obviously seeing right now in December. Okay, we also pulled in the average so far, current average network hash, which is about 490 exahash based on the 30-day moving average on it. So I'm using that. And then we pulled in what the miners were at the end of November here, installed at that time. So here's everybody what they are. So this is 2.8 exahash, 2.2, 7.2 roughly per Bitdeer. 6.4 for Bitfarm, so forth and so on. You can see that there. Percent of network exahash current month. So this is the percentage they actually have of that network hash rate. So if the network hash rate is at 490 exahash and they're at 2.8 exahash, what percentage do they actually have of that hash rate, right? So we have that percentage here all across the board. BTC per day with 0 fees. So based on that, you're getting basically 900 Bitcoin per day in fees handed out. You divide the numbers here and you get this. So Argo is supposed to get about $5.14 BTC per day, roughly based on their exahash that they have right now. Bit Digital is 413. They own a little bit less here, so they're getting a little bit less. Bitdeer 13.2, Bitfarms 11.8 BTC per day, Cipher 11.4, CleanSpark 18.5, Core at 27.9. Then we got DigiHost at 2.0, DMG 2.2, Hive 7.67, Hut 8 at 13.4, Iris at 10.4, Marathon at 42.6. Obviously the biggest one here. Riot at 22, Sphere at 2, Stronghold at 7, and TerraWolf at 9. Okay. But this does not include any of the curtailment that they do each month, right? Some miners will curtail more than others, depending on where they're located, how much they have to curtail. Does it make sense for them to curtail? So this does not look into all of that, right? This is just if they were running normally every single day, basically. On average, this is what they would be at on that point, okay? Here, I took the 17 days in December, starting with first day, going to the 17th day, what the BTC fees were for each day at that point, and put it all in here. Then we also looked at per block average BTC fees. So if you have 144 blocks per day, on average, we're getting about 0.66 BTC here in the beginning. Then towards the end here, just a day ago, you're getting 3.81 BTC added to each block, which is huge. That's basically almost, well, that's probably 50%, a little bit more than 50% of the BTC reward that the miners are getting right now, right? They're getting 6.25. You add the 3.81 on top of it, they're getting like 9, almost 10 BTC per day, per block, sorry. So we ran all the numbers here. We did some totals here. We did an average per day, what that could be. So the total here is for the 17 days. It's not for the 30 days or 31 days here in December. It's just for that. You can see all the numbers there. Average per day as well, what that comes out to be over the last 17 days. And then we're looking at the projected December total possibly for this if things stay at this average per day for them. And we're multiplying it times the 31 days. So that's the numbers we're getting there. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. Last 3 months average uptime. So I did look back at the miners to see what was their uptime over the last 3 months, and then I put in the percentages there. And then we're multiplying it here to get an adjusted average uptime of BTC, what they could possibly get at that point. And then this one here is what the difference is between the two. So what should they have gotten if they mine basically for the full 31 days, if they didn't curtail at all. And then this is what they normally would get based on the historical uptime that we do have for them. So this is the difference that where they would have gotten obviously more if they were up mining for more days, okay? And then estimated revenue with curtailment, I'm using the stock price Bitcoin price of 42,180, which is, I think that was the price right around lunchtime when I did this. So it's a little bit down from where it is right now. Downtime cost is what we're looking to see if they curtailed, how much they actually would cost them to curtail. To do this, we'll take a look at that as well. And then without curtailment, what should they be at in revenue if they ran for the full 31 days, okay? So that's all the numbers there that you guys might need to know, how I calculated things. And then looking at here, we can see here that they adjusted for average uptime BTC production increase compared to November. We can see obviously Marathon was way up there, 407 Bitcoin increased over potentially where they were in November. So a huge increase for them, but there's a reason for this, and we'll explain the reason as well. I had to take a sip of my water. Okay. Marathon last month increased their hash rate by about 4 exahash. They got to 23.2 exahash. Those miners were installed towards the end of the month, potentially. They didn't have the benefit of getting more of, obviously, Bitcoin if they were installed in the beginning of the month. So partially for their huge increase is the actual increase in hash rate for them. So getting to 23.2 from, they were at 18 something, I think 19 something, which was a 4 exahash increase. That is having a huge impact here for them, but it also is benefiting them that they got to 23 because now with the transaction fees, they're getting more of those transaction fees with having a larger hash rate, okay? Again, so these are the numbers for adjusted. So how much would, on average, have they curtailed over the last 3 months? And that's what we're kind of getting here. Okay, next one up was Core. Core was at 88. They're obviously at like 15 exahash, something like that right now. So that's a nice increase there as well. Hut 8. I actually improved their numbers for efficiency because they did merge with USBTC. So I'm giving them, I believe, like a 90% efficiency right now rating. We'll see if that holds true or not. It's a little hard to tell because before the USBTC merger, they were actually mining for like 16, 18, sometimes 20 days. It was bad for them. So I'm hoping that being with USBTC, they will mine actually for longer time frames. So you're giving them a little bit more efficiency. Otherwise, it would have been on the negative side of things here. But they came out to be 78.95, so that's really good there. Also, CleanSpark came in at 53.6, Bitfarms at 66.45. Bitfarms also installed miners in November, so that's helping them there now from where they were. BitDeer, 69.77, also good numbers there. And then the rest, you can see as well how those have all played out. Okay. Estimated total BTC plus fees for the past 17 days. So this includes obviously the normal Bitcoin transaction, Bitcoin block rewards, plus the transaction fees in here for the last 17 days, and how much the miners could have possibly have mined here. Obviously, we don't have wallets for all of these. I think there's Marathon has a wallet out there. That's probably going to be higher than what I have here because mine's just an estimated number based on what they could have done. Okay, but overall, you can see here that the top one is Marathon, 908 Bitcoin so far in the 17 days. So that's fantastic. That's huge for them. Their next one is going to be Core. Core came in at 595. Then we got Riot. Now, Riot obviously is also tricky because Riot does curtail quite a bit here. We'll have to see if they can actually pull this off or what will they be actually at. Okay, and then CleanSpark, 394. And then we got, who else is after that? Probably BitDeer, 281. Bitfarms, 251. Hut 8 at 285 as well. Kind of the worthy mentions here. Then everybody else is below that pretty much. Okay. And then the estimated revenue with curtailment. So now we're looking at potential revenue for the month of December if the averages stay true, which they might change. Obviously, the transaction fees may go down or they may actually still continue to go up, which would be fantastic. But this is kind of like the average that we're looking at where they might actually end up at for the month. Here we can see obviously Marathon, huge gains, obviously at 65. I think last month they brought in around 40 some million, so that's almost a 20 million increase for them. One, the additional hash rate getting to 23.2 is helping them out, plus the additional BTC that they are gaining in the fees as well. Okay, then you got Core with 43.9 million, CleanSpark at 30.3 million, and then you got Riot kind of down there at 23.1 million. So that's judging them based on their past performance of curtailment. Okay, and you can see the numbers for the rest of these guys here. Okay, let's go back to some of the numbers over here, which I thought were kind of interesting as well. So if we look at downtime costs here, as far as the miners that curtail a little bit, right? So we got some miners operating at 80% uptime, BitDigital at 94%, BitDeer at 92%, then we got Bitfarms at 100%, Cipher at 100%, CleanSpark at 100%. Core recently has been like at 96%, which has been really good. DigiHost at 100%, DMG at 82%, Hive at 100%, Hut 8 at 90%, Iris at 100%, Marathon at 94%, Riot at 62%, right? This is based on the historical last 3 months. 83% for Sphere, Stronghold at 77%, and then TerraWolf at like 99%, almost 100% uptime there. So downtime cost here for Argo would be like 1.6. So the theory here is, can they actually make up that difference in curtailing and getting power credits or refunded for power, however they are structured to do that? And for them, that's definitely a sizable amount, 1.68 million. That's definitely a lot there. If they got to obviously weigh it, and I don't think it's up to them really because their machines are mostly hosted by Galaxy Digital right now. Then you got BitDigital downtime cost would be 406,000 for them, so that's not too bad on them. Then you got BitDeer at 1.7 million here. You got Core at 1.8, DMG at 650,000, Hut at 2.1 million, almost 2.2 million here. Marathon with 4.2 million as well. So that's compared to what they're getting, supposedly around 65 million. That's not too bad, but it's still up there. And then you got Riot here, 14 million. So unless Riot gets $14 million in credits, and depending on how they curtail, but based on the historicals, that's kind of what we're calculating right now. If they do curtail that much still, especially with Bitcoin BTC fees going up the way they are, they're losing out here big time, because I doubt that they will actually have 14 million in curtailment fees and credits and things like that, like we saw in August. August they had 31 million, so maybe they can apply some of that towards here as well, make them a little bit more profitable. But we'll have to see, obviously, how much did they curtail and was it worth it for them. Okay, Sphere 665,000, Stronghold 2.7 million, and then TerraWolf only 150,000. So that's not too bad there as well. Okay. Also, interesting to note here that the difference between what they mined here, potentially based on the average uptime here over the last 3 months, I have them at 548 Bitcoin here. Last month they reported, or was it 552? So they would actually be down here, even though the Bitcoin fees have increased. So it's kind of interesting to take a look at there as well. Obviously, Marathon up the highest here, 407. Difference from last month, which is a huge increase as well. So you can see what a huge impact this obviously has on the miners for them. Getting an additional 3.81 Bitcoin added to each block reward is huge. And it's definitely going to be a huge impact, obviously, from where the miners were last month. Some of these miners, I think, I'm not going to go into. I probably should have pulled it in the data here for where they were revenue-wise in November and compare that what they could possibly be at, and as far as where things end up at going forward. But you can see the data here. It's really interesting how this is having a huge impact. And if this continues going forward, this is going to be a boom. I mean, the miners are basically like just printing cash right now with the way the Bitcoin transaction fees are heading. And is it sustainable also? That I don't know. We'll have to see. We had a big boom here in May. If we go to the 6 months chart, we can possibly see it maybe, let's see here, year to date. So you can see in May here, had a huge run up here on the BTC transaction fees, then slowly petered out a little bit here, came back down, and now we're having it again, but now it's lasting over 2 months now. So is this going to be sustainable going forward? I hope it is, because it's definitely going to help the miners, and the stock prices of those miners go up a lot more than we were expecting. So this might be really good, but we'll see. Okay, let me know what you guys think of all of this stuff, obviously, down in the comments below. And we'll see where things end up at. But obviously, you saw where the miners could get to as far as revenue, the increases that you're seeing on it as well. If you guys have any questions down in the comments, let me know. And we'll address it there, or we'll address it in the next video possibly as well. So that is it. Spreadsheet is going to be available as always to my Patreon members. Thank you to everyone there for the continued support. That is still, excuse me, $5 a month, and the link is down in the description for that. And if you pay for a full year subscription, you get 10% off. So there's an even better deal for you. Okay. Other than that, thank you so much for coming in to watch this. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great night.